Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. EMU IS 301 production value beyond compare. I'm kidding. I hope you know that. Good gravy. I'm a circle on a screen. This has probably got zero production value, but does all my thing. Make sure and read the stuff over here because I may not even talk about it. You guys already know that. I don't mean to tell you stuff you already know. EMU IS 301 system acquisition and development. Although I'm probably talking about this at a different level, and we'll talk about levels here as we go along. Consequences of gimmicks. This is fun because I'm going to shoot holes in almost everything that constitutes what software developers think is very important. Number one, the framework. I said the problem is the more interesting your framework is, the less used it'll ever be. It has to get some sweet spot. You really have to have basically a thing. Let me give you an example from programming, and it's going to be interesting because if you don't understand it, you won't be able to see it. So this is really a video for the system developer in your life, and they'll go, "Oh, okay, I understand." So you heard of the programming language called Python. It's pretty cool. It includes a lot of interesting features that people always wanted and that didn't get implemented very well in the past. So Python kind of came up with it, kind of put these things together, and it's really how you build and market new programming languages. Very early on in Python development, there was a product that got made out of it called Plone. And I'll tell you, and Plone was very, very popular in its day. Now, it didn't last very long. That day didn't last very long. And it's interesting because you start finding out that a lot of things in Python were actually affected by Plone. Not by Plone. I'm skipping ahead. I'm talking right here about this thing right here. Oops. Let me get that highlighted. Oh, it's slow. It's slow talking to me. Okay. Zope became kind of a thing, and it was cool in its time. It has since disappeared, and any concept that came from it has also disappeared. Had some selling points that people thought were really compelling, but when push came to shove, it didn't get used very much, and it kind of got in the way of people accomplishing what they wanted to do, things like inheritance and acquisition. These are ideas that, although interesting in some realms, didn't really become compelling when it came to designing web pages and stuff like that. It got a little muddled over time. Anyway, the funny thing was Zope and its continuing development started to drive Python development too. There was certain aspects to Python that were specifically changed in order to make Zope work better. You'll find that a lot, especially in things that are somewhat domain specific, as they say. And the funny thing was that it went to a whole nother level. Built on top of Plone, which is built on top of Python, which was built using the Python programming language, was a product called Plone. And Plone was written by some guys that really understood Zope and were able to get a lot of interesting things out of it. Zope is a framework. It's a tool. I'd say Python's the tool for our purposes. Zope is the framework, and Plone is the ultimate is a product. And what normally happens is, and you'll see this happen all the time, a framework will have a flagship product. The flagship product for Zope was Plone. And Plone became this wonderful thing. It's now somewhat, I have to be honest, there's some things about Zope that are tricky and that are difficult. And some people don't like it at its very depth. So Zope is changing according to where Plone wants to go. Plone has decided to find it's a content. It ends up being kind of a documentation system, not documentation, a document presentation system. You can look at a web page as a document, basically is, but and Plone looks at everything that way. Zope did too. It's why it kind of grew up. Now Plone is affecting Zope, the framework, to the point to where most people don't even know Zope exists anymore. Most people don't even look at it as an independent thing. There used to be several products built on Zope. Now there is one, or maybe two or three, but you never hear about those. The only one you hear about is our buddy Plone. And Plone is just one player in the market of content management systems. And it isn't even really a compelling one anymore. Other products have eclipsed it, and Plone is really kind of an anachronism, if it's anything. And it's really interesting, but it brings to mind the whole thing. Normal people want solutions more than they want tools. I mean, normal people. Programmers aren't normal. It's okay. I only program lightly. Therefore, I can speak upon this term without getting all offended by it. Okay, let me talk about these other things, man. And these are some more things. When you provide excess abstractions to both hide and expose things, it's funny because you don't really know what people want when you build something, especially when you're building something that you think other people want to customize. Customers often say, I want to be able to customize this stuff. And then they come back and they don't customize it much at all. That's the wonder. But you know what? If you don't make it so it can be customized, you can't use that selling point. A lot of people won't buy stuff unless they have the possibility to customize it. It's funny. Most people take stuff stock. And if your product can't do these things stock or with some third-party add-on that's really easy to use and really easy to build in, it's not going to sell very well. Companies are starting to see this as an actual trend. This is called nature. It's natural to behave this way. That you don't really want to have to craft this stuff yourself. You don't want a hammer that can also be a screwdriver too. That's a gimmick. Oh, we're talking about gimmicks again. I don't want to use the same thing to be my hammer as my screwdriver. It just doesn't work. Although you can say it's a customizable hammer. A customizable, we'll call it a tool. Tool! You can use it as a hammer. You can use it as a screwdriver. And you're going, why not just buy a hammer and buy a screwdriver? Why not just do one and the other? And that's what typically happens when it comes to software. You try to integrate things and you find that it only needs the littlest slim shim of an integration, and nobody else cares about it otherwise. And that's where you get all these interrupts. That was a really old way of doing it. You would interrupt your program to tell it to go and run and do something else, update something on the screen, then it'd come back and get back to processing what you were working on. That was the old one. Then you got APIs. You got this funny thing called JSON, which is supposed to be some standardized way to be able to do configurations or to pass information from one part of your program to another part of your program. We have the OSI layers when it comes to networking. This is the physical layer. This is the application layer way up here. And you're going, most people don't give a flip about what's between. They don't care how it works as long as it works at all. That's all they care about. You can use it as a selling point to other technical people, but it doesn't really matter. I'm going to come back to this because we got to talk about the upsell. That's what everything's about. So be back. Be happy. See you soon.